Hey everyone, Maury Curtis Dunbar here. Welcome back to Painted Studios. This is our second live today, and we are going to start epoxying our cups in just a minute. If you saw our live earlier, you saw that we had done the foiling and the lettering and all that sort of stuff on our cups, and we're ready to move on to the next step. So I have decorated our other cups with some glitter, so I'm going to show you how I got there with our last cup. And then we're going to move on to the epoxy. Yay! I'm so excited. Now, quick reminder, once again, if you're not familiar with it, we have a YouTube channel. Look it up under my name, Maury Curtis Dunbar, or under Painted Studio. It will take you to our channel, and you'll see almost every one of our lives. I'm still uploading. We do so many lives that it takes me a while to get them all uploaded. So if you're looking for anything in the last week or so, you're going to have to look here on Facebook until I manage to get it all uploaded onto YouTube. So I'm going to just kind of move into this right away. We had a lot of talking and stuff and caught up on other things before. So now we're going to get into our epoxies and our top coats and what I'm doing with this cup. So let me angle this a little better so you can see it a little better. And I'm going to take my cup. I'm going to take my Artsyville foil adhesive, and I'm going to use a brush. Now, we have our cup that says Joyeux Noël on it, but I need to finish glamming this cup up. And I took a very specific tack with this on the other two cups. I put a band of adhesive down here, a band of adhesive up here, and I applied glitter here and here to complete the look of our cup. Now I can go silver. I can go with our silver tinsel glitter, which I love, but I have found that if I put the silver tinsel glitter really heavily around here, it likes to stick up like eyelashes, and it doesn't always lay down the best for an intense level of glitter on something. So we'll save that for something else. Let's see if I can get this open, because, you know, the adhesive firms up, gets a little tough to open the jar. Alrighty, so we're going to start with the band on the bottom. Take my little bit off of my brush because I don't want it to be too thick. I don't want too much product on here. So I just start with a narrower band that's not going to be terribly even so that I can clean it up and move the foil adhesive into a slightly wider. If you're not great at hand painting like this, don't worry. Use a piece of tape. I just sort of let the width of the brush guide me. And usually I can get pretty close to well, you know, done nice and neatly. So I've got that on there. I'm not putting it on the bottom of the cup because that just is a pain in the neck. And I am going to sprinkle some of our Artsyville silver glitter on here. Now this is messy. And as you can see, I'm not waiting for the glue to dry, for the adhesive to dry. And there's a very specific reason for that. Because when the adhesive is damp like this, it likes to grab glitter better. And then I can take my finger and kind of pat it down on there, and more glitter adheres to the surface. If I wait until it's dry, it's a very thin layer of glitter that sticks on here. So I want it to be more glittery, not less. All right, and now we're gonna do this top band, and I have to watch where I put my hand so I don't stick my finger in the glitter down here. I figured that out the first cup when I wasn't paying attention and stuck my fingers right in the glitter. And then I had to figure out how to fix that. And, you know, it's all fixable, but really it's easier if you don't have to fix it. So I'm sort of brushing this up towards the lip. And the reason I'm doing that is that way I don't get a thick layer of adhesive right here at the lip, and then it makes it awkward to try to clean it up. Instead, I just brush it up and then come back and smooth it right into that first ridge. Got it. And let's set that brush over there, and we're going to sprinkle. Now, you don't have to have a jar this big to do the sprinkling. Heck, I've done it with a spoon full of glitter. You know, I just took the glitter spoon and, oops, I dropped my cup on the floor. Took the glitter spoons, a spoonful of glitter, and just sprinkled it over stuff. I'm just trying not to make a mess. And I can't actually put this in a bag and shake it to get it glittery like I might something else, because I'm glittering the top and the bottom, and I've put the adhesive on so thick that if I do that, I'll ruin my clean lines on the top and the bottom. So look how nicely that came out. Now I'm going to set it here to dry. And that's going to dry overnight, and I will deal with epoxying it tomorrow, because we have 5 cups and only 4. Don't put the wrong lid on there. I almost put the adhesive lid on the glitter. That would have been messy. Ugh, the things I almost do by mistake. All right, so I'm going to set those over here. You know, maybe I should actually put the extra silver glitter back into the jar before I forget. And I can get the cups out of the way, I mean the plates out of the way too. All right, so that's all set aside, and we're gonna mix epoxy. Okay, 2 containers, pulling my sleeves up, putting on gloves. Now, you know, I'm supposed to be better about putting on gloves than I am, but for epoxy, I never forget, because if you don't wear gloves, you're gonna be gooey. I just found out the hard way that the only way to make this work really well is to not keep your hands bare. My epoxy's open. You know what? Give me just 1 second. I forgot my sponge brushes. This is about the only thing I like sponge brushes for. I'm not a big fan of sponge brushes. They fall apart, they disintegrate, they make messy messes. And then, you know, you use them like 2 or 3 times and the sponge breaks and the center core comes out. In general, I don't love them. But for epoxy, they are the perfect tool. So we're gonna use art resin today. We have art resin, 2-part epoxy. We have hardener and resin, and you have to mix these correctly. So I'm going to repeat the same lesson many of you have heard many times over, but not everybody's ever heard before. When you do epoxy, read the directions on the container carefully. Our containers, our art resin is 1-to-1 ratio, meaning you need 1 part hardener for 1 part resin, and they must be exact. If you can't eyeball, and really, I'm not kidding, I've been eyeballing for like 30 years, so I'm pretty good at it, but even I screw it up once in a while. So if you're not good at eyeballing, use measuring cups. Okay, I don't do the thing where you pour one on top of the other and the level raises. I want to see my measurements in front of me. That's how my brain works. So if you don't have your proportions exactly right, you're going to have failure. And the reason for that is if you get too much hardener in and not enough resin, your resin will set up too quickly. Hang on, let me measure here and I'll keep talking. Let me take a good look. Need a little more hardener. Okay, there we go. If you don't have enough resin and too much hardener, your epoxy will start setting up very, very fast. and it will not set up evenly, and it will become very brittle, and it'll shorten the time. You might not even have a chance to get it poured out. That's how fast that'll happen. If you have too much resin and not enough hardener, exactly the opposite happens. You'll have soft spots, you'll have uneven spots. You might have stuff that never actually cures properly and stays gooey forever. That's why you have to be so careful. And then when you're ready to mix it, you pour the one into the other, scraping every last bit out of the container so that you don't waste any. You want to keep as much of what you just measured out going together as humanly possible. Okay. And then you're going to stir. Now don't stir delicately like this. I've seen people do that because they think it keeps the bubbles out. Don't worry about the bubbles. That's what a torch or a heat gun is for. You need to mix thoroughly and scrape and stir. And scrape and stir. You want to mix 2 minutes or longer. Basically, my brain says you mix until you know it's mixed, and then you mix even longer. See, now if you look, you might see some bubbles flying. That's a good thing. That means we're mixing up well. But do not breathe those bubbles. I blow them away from me, or I normally wear masks. The reason you don't want to breathe them is those bubbles are epoxy. You don't want epoxy in your lungs. Now, if you're not sure how long to mix, set a timer and mix that whole time. Okay, I'm going to keep mixing here. You can see little bubbles flying. I'm literally blowing the bubbles away from me. Once the bubbles start flying, you've got a pretty good idea. Now, not all epoxies have bubbles flying. Art resin does it really well. Our liquid glass does not. It's not, for whatever reason, one likes to throw the bubbles, the other doesn't, because I mix them both the same way. Now, this one has basically no odor. Yeah, if I stick my nose in, I get odor. Art resin has a little higher odor. This one I know is a little friendlier on the nose, but it does dry a little softer. It works perfectly for the cups. It works perfectly for everything else. But if you need a rigid epoxy, use the liquid glass. If you want something that can be left a little more softer, a little more flexible, you can use art resin. And you can actually cast with both, but I find that the liquid glass casts better because it dries harder, meaning you can pour it into a mold. All right, so we're going to take 4 cups here, and I'm going to pour, I might only pour it into 3, because really I have 4 cups on a turner and 4, I don't need 4 plastic cups. I can just mix one in the big container I have here. So let's do this. Actually, I'm going to pour it into the 4th, because if I find any of these need a little extra epoxy, I have 1 clean container. Okay, so I've got 4 cups of epoxy, and I can just use this as I want to, or I can add things to it. So we're going to start with each cup. And I'm going to pull them over, and then we're going to tuck them over to the side. So here is our Christmas cup. Let's move these epoxy cups to the side so I don't do something stupid like knock them over, because that's what I do. And actually I want them over here because all the cords to the turners are on the other side of the table. you can get this one. This is my least favorite cup turner. Hey, Maddie, nice to see you. I got these at Michael's. Frankly, they're overpriced. I happened to get it for 19 bucks, but that was a fluke because of the way they had things priced online versus in the store. So I personally recommend going on Amazon and buying the wooden cup turners. They sit up a little higher. I think they're better turners than these are. All right, so I have my Merry Christmas, and as you can see, I put the red bands of glitter on top and bottom, which already looks awesome. But we've got our epoxy here, so I'm gonna have a little fun. Now these are some random craft glitters that I picked up over the years. This has green, large, round, actually they're hexagonal shaped glitter. I'll show that to you in there. And I discovered in doing some of this stuff, I really like the big glitter because it kind of looks more like flakes and a little less glittery. And then I had red. These are hearts. I wish I had other shapes, but the hearts will work. Obviously going out the shaker one like that's not a good one. So I'm gonna sprinkle a little red and green in there. And I'm gonna take one of my extra sticks here, stir it up. I'm not going super crazy with these glitters in here because I don't want to cover all the work I did. So I just sprinkled a little in there so it'll be part of the final finish. Usually cups go with 2 coats, so this first coat will seal up the glitter, it'll seal up the lettering, it'll deposit these colors, and then tomorrow I'll do a second coating. Let me turn this on. I have a timer. You get cheap lamp timers at the hardware store, and that's what I have set up so that when I leave here today, these will continue to turn all night, and when I come back in the morning, they will be dried and the timer will have turned off. So I'm gonna take one of my little spongy brushies here, and I'm gonna turn it off first. I want to watch how I'm turning to make sure this is lined up to be even. I don't want it wobbling up and down because that will affect the way the final look is. All right, so now I can see how it's turning. Now the other thing, you can't see this because it's all off camera over to the side. Over here, once all of these have been turned, epoxied and turned on and set up on the side where they'll turn all night, I'll slide a piece of parchment paper underneath all the turning surfaces because this stuff drips and it builds up down here and it makes a heck of a mess. If I can put parchment paper under here, it keeps my turners from actually sticking to the table. All right, let's turn this on slowly. Putting a little bit on at a time at first, just to move it around so I have kind of a slip coat going for the rest of it. All right, I'm just making sure all the glitter on this side is covered, and then I'm going to put a little epoxy over here. Make sure the glitter is coated with epoxy on this side. Now, if your hands aren't steady or you're concerned about epoxy getting inside the cup, tape off the inside of the rim. Okay, so I've got that on. Now I can be a little more generous in my pouring. And a lot of what I just poured on will end up being leveled out of this. I do want to make sure I get the bottom. And this will look really lumpy and messy for a few minutes. Then the turning of the cup itself will help everything level out. It'll shift the epoxy because this stuff, if I didn't have it on a turner, the gravity would just make all of the epoxy run right off of here. Okay, I want to make sure I get glitter on all areas of this. And again, the turning will help make that happen too. And I want to make a point of sticking glitter in certain areas. And I can come back and I will probably add more glitter on the second coat after I see how this coat's dried. Or I shouldn't say dried, cured. This is a chemical drying process, not an air drying process. Okay, super cute as that is. I mean, I'm loving that. Okay, so we're going to take that turner, move it back over here to the side, set it down, and we're going to bring over another cup. Now I have these all lined up here so that at the very end I will turn the camera angle over here and you can see me torching them all at the same time. It's quite frankly just simpler to torch them all at one time instead of doing lots and lots of individual torching. I have 45 minutes of pot time, meaning 45 minutes after I mixed this, that's the amount of time I generally have to work with this before it becomes unworkable. Starts to set up, starts getting gooey, starts not turning well. Okay, so the next glitter we're going to add to this is our Celebrate cup. The first time I did it with gold and black glitters. This one I'm doing with blue and silvers. So I have our silver blue mix that we carry here. I'm gonna mix a bunch of that in there and be generous with that because I don't have to worry like I did the other with the letters being obscured. This'll look great. All right, there's some of that. I'm going to use some of this random, well, this says orange, but it's certainly not orange. Somebody mislabeled that. These are little moon-shaped blue glitter. You can pick this up at Michael's. That's where I got it. I got that. And I have just a little regular blue glitter. You're seeing, I'm slowly working through all of my old crafting supplies that were hidden in corners because they work perfect, so well for our cup turning. So you see, I just, all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look at all the old glitter I found in my supplies. Okay, now this is a little more glitter heavy than the other one was. Last one's a little more sparse, but this one, because of the Celebrate nature of it, I want to be a little more exuberant with the glitter. Okay, I'm going to turn the turner on. And this turner is one of the ones I got from Amazon. And you turn it on, it'll spin one way. You turn it off, you play with it, and then you turn it and it'll turn back the other way. I personally like it best when they turn towards me so that I can then manipulate the epoxy a little easier by holding the brush this way. It's way harder to do it if I have to hold it this way. All right, so we're gonna pour this on. Now the one thing this doesn't have is a speed control. It's one speed fits all. All right, so I'm gonna take the epoxy, just sort of smooth it over the surface. Again, giving myself a little bit of a slip coat so that when I pour the rest on, it'll distribute more evenly. And if you're not familiar with what slip coat means, it means applying a wet coat of something so that when you apply immediately another wet coat, the next layer slides and moves around better instead of grabs. Now, I will not remove my tape on this. I know I'm embedding my tape in the epoxy, so tomorrow when I come in, once I know these will be dry, I'll come in and cut along the tape line to remove it and retape for the second, because for the second coat of epoxy that I'm going to put on, because that will prevent this from completely making the tape a part of the finish, which is really not what you want to have happen. Okay. Oh, I love all this glue, pretty glitter on here. So I'm just going to let the cup turner go, and I can deposit stuff all over the place by just letting the turner do its movements, and I hold the brush still. So part of the reason you saw me earlier working to level the cup out on the other turner is that if it angles down too much, all your epoxy slides down to the bottom. And so you have a thick build up here and a very thin layer up top, and you're not evenly distributed, and it can make the cup actually awkward to hold. So what I'm doing here is just sort of breaking up some of the clumps of glitter that want to grab up. So this is, I just love how this combination looks together. It looked great with the gold and the black, and now it's looking wonderful with the silver and blue, and we're going to stick that one over to the side like we did the other. And we're going to move forward with our red one. Okie dokie. Now our red cup, where's another one of my cups of epoxy? We're going to do something a little different in this one. We're going to actually put some mica flakes in. Now this is just a sample bag of the silver mica that we already carry. So I thought the silver mica and some other silver stuff in here would be really pretty. Let me see if I've got some pearl next to me here too. I thought I had some pearl mica sitting right next to me. Here we go. Okay. So here's pearl, and then this is silver. So I think I'm gonna sprinkle a little pearl in here too, because pearl looks a little more snowy. And then I'm gonna put some of these are silver, little silver moons. So kind of give you a snowy night feeling. Okay. And then I think we'll take just a hint of silver glitter. Just a touch. I don't want to go too crazy. I don't want it to be a silvery cup. I want it to be a snowy cup. Alrighty, here's this mixing stick. And let's turn our cup turner on. All right, it's turning the other way, so I need to do this. Get it turning towards me. And where's a sponge brush? I think I'm going to dip into this a little bit because the mica flakes. The mica flakes won't look so much pearly as they'll look icy. And if you remember from the other cup that we did similarly, it had a wonderful crystally icy look. And that one sold right off the live. Some gal came in and said, "I saw you doing it. Please, can I have it?" I said, "Sure." That always excites me when that works that way. I always feel good that somebody likes something so much that they want it right away. Okay, so let's get that slip coat all over here. Now the thing with the mica flakes is they will make things a little lumpy because the mica's, mica's an awkward shape and it's thin and it wants to bend sometimes a little bit and stand up on its edge, that's not a problem. The second coat, we just don't put mica flakes in it. If I wanted to, I can add more silver, I can add more glitter, I can add more other stuff, but you don't really want to add the more mica flakes because then it'll still be lumpy. Okay, just moving things around, making sure everything's covered. Breaking up any clumps of mica that might want to grab onto each other. Yeah, I think in the second coat I might put some more of this silver moons because they look awfully pretty on here. Okay, let's make sure every spot is covered. I do not want to have any momentary lapses in coverage, so that when I come to torch it, I end up burning the finish instead of torching the epoxy. Because I've done that too. I make the mistakes so you guys don't have to. And it doesn't matter that I'm tapping into it. It all levels out. I'm just making sure I got all the spots I need to get. And I'm trying, the reason I'm tapping is that if I put my brush here and let it all, I'd be smushing around all the mica flakes. And really what I'm just trying to do is make sure every bit of this is covered with epoxy so I can go and torch it in a few minutes. So really I'm pushing, I know I'm well over my tape line and that was my goal. I want to push it just enough so that tomorrow I can cut the tape out. But I know I've gotten the epoxy all the way up to the edge of the tape and then some. So I'm going to take some of this epoxy, just shove it out of the way because it's getting really gooey. And if you'll notice my cup, every time I do this, I'm going a little further to my left. And that's simply because every time I do this, I pour more epoxy down here and I'm trying not to set the machine into the epoxy. All right, so I need my last cup. Here we go. We've got the epoxy. I have got these, let's put these all over to the side. I've got these really cute gold star glitter. So be a little generous with that. And then I have our gold champagne and teal mix, and that's a little iridescent. And I picked this one specifically because we did the green letters. I wanted to make sure there was just a hint of green iridescence in the glitter, so that it all tied together. Again, this is our mix. You can find it on our website, paintedstudio.com. And if you look close at the pack, let me turn it to the back, there is a combination of size of glitter. So you go from very big to microfine. Take another mixing stick. Stir that in, make sure it's well mixed. All right, so I need a brush, and I'm not gonna go grab another, so I'm just scraping this stuff off from the silver because that is the least colorful one. And if a little silver gets in here, it won't hurt anything, whereas any of the other colors coming in probably wouldn't look great. Yes, I am squeezing this out with my fingers. That's because I'm going to change my gloves before we torch things. Okay, let's turn this one on. All right, see, I can already see that the angle on this is bad, so I'm going to need to adjust it ever so slightly. And there we go. So we're good now. Again, because if it's angled the wrong way, everything slides down to the bottom of the cup. You have almost no epoxy up here, and you get this thick buildup down here that's really awkward to work with, and it's not great on your cup. It's not comfortable to hold, you know, the whole deal. And this is our soft gold glitter that's on here right now. I'm just gonna pour like that. Don't turn these for less than 8 hours. Before that, it's still too soft. You're likely to have sagging, dripping, uneven spots, really unsatisfactory finish. That's why I do this at the end of the day, so that I can put the timer on these and go home. If I did this at the beginning of the day with the fact that this needs to continue to turn, y'all see me. I'm a mess. Can you imagine how many things I'd end up putting in here by mistake? Like how much stuff would just end up stuck in my epoxy? It's bad enough when I have to deal with things that I have limited control over, like flies or mosquitoes in the summertime. I don't need to make it worse by throwing things in it myself. Again, I'm working to distribute, the padding is working to distribute the glitter and stuff all over the place so that we have a nice even look to this. And the turning, again, is part of what helps that. All right, so I've got all my cups poured. Check and see if I missed any spots. Waiting for the cups to turn all the way around. Get out of there. Okay, so now I'm going to set this all over to the side. Let me turn the light on here. I'm going to take my glove off so I can adjust the camera without epoxying it. All right, so you can see now we have 4 cups turning. Let me shift my light out of the way so you all can see. These two look like they're touching, but they're a good 6 inches apart, so don't worry about that. I'm going to put on a fresh glove so I can pick up my torch, which is almost always a little sticky anyway. All right. Now I'm going to take my little, this is a creme brulee kind of torch. You can get them at Home Depot or at, a restaurant supply place. Next, before I forget, because I'm already having spilling and seeping happening over there, I'm taking a piece of parchment paper, putting it under all of the turners. And it doesn't matter if the parchment paper sticks to any of the epoxy that's already dripped, because it'll peel off. But what this will do is prevent my turners from being stuck to the table. Okay, so I've got my little torch. It just refills with butane, so if you buy the torch, make sure to get some butane to refill it. All right. And you're going to torch. I got to do it this way. Sorry, folks, and get my arm in the... And you want to just go lightly over the surface to raise the bubbles, to slightly liquefy your epoxy, and it'll help it flow smoother. And then make sure you get the bottom. Now, the bottom of this one, there's a lot, I somehow managed to get it real heavy with the epoxy. So if you can see it, I'm not sure if it's showing on camera, torching it, I got stuff just dripping off the bottom because I put my epoxy on a little heavier than I should have. Okay, let's get to the wine cup, which is easier for me to get up and over now. And I'm just moving it back and forth and making sure it get at least 1 full rotation, which is not hard to judge since there's words on here, you know where your start and end point are. Okay, I've gotten that. Make sure I get the end. Notice I am not sticking my torch straight down in and trying to heat it that way. That'll burn through the epoxy and end up burning your finish. You want to waft it over the surface. And you want to move quickly because you don't want too much heat to build up. You don't want to take the chance, you know, of sizzling out your finish. Ask me how I know. I've actually burned the stickers that I created, the vinyl stickers, because I'm that smart a girl. Okay, and here's our final cup. Turn this a little faster. Now these ones have adjustable speeds, which can be helpful, but honestly, on the whole, I still like these better. These keep the cups level better. Okay, and so now we'll leave these to turn for the next 8 to 10 hours. Let's come back here. So these are going to end up tomorrow. They're going to be nice and glossy, but they might be a little lumpy simply because we put so much glitter or mica or something else in there. So a second coat will be applied. They'll turn for another 8 hours and they will be ready to go on Thursday. I will show you the final results from this tomorrow when we do another live, and then I'll be putting this guy on a turn or two so that so we get them all done. All right, everybody, thanks for sticking with me. I know it's a little on the late side. I need to go home and have some dinner. All right, everybody, have a wonderful evening. Please sprinkle the love. Use that little arrow button that's down in this corner and make sure that all your friends can see the fun stuff we get to do here. All right, everyone, have a good one. Bye-bye.